Today, I'm giving myself my hardest challenge yet. That's to survive 100 days in LEGO Fortnite Odyssey with a twist. I can only use the brand new superpowers. And to make sure that this is truly our hardest challenge yet, this will be done inside of expert mode with friendly fire turned on so that villagers are able to defeat us. Starting off, if you haven't played in a while, hero powers have come to Odyssey, which means that we have brand new weapons and equipment that we're able to use. We get hit with this graphic immediately when spawning in, telling us everything that we need to know about the mastery tab and all of the brand new changes that were done to food items and even brand new potions. He started us off with a sword and we really can't use that. Now this video can't end until I defeat every major boss in LEGO Fortnite Odyssey, starting with all three of the brute types, the brand new Spires, Daigo himself, and finally the Storm King. It's very important that we start off this challenge doing everything the best possible way, which means that we're going to be petting the animals, and even though we can't use our sword on enemies, it doesn't mean we can't break down these bushes to get vine and wood. Vine is very important to feed these animals because they give us ingredients for the best food items in the game. Now that we have our village square placed down, we're going to need to collect as much wood and granite from the ground as possible and break even more bushes. In order to make a lumber mill and a stone breaker, we are going to need plank, wooden rods, and even more granite. So it's time to start really farming. With our crafting bench down, we can officially create our first tool, which is going to be a wooden axe. Not the greatest of tools out there, but it does allow us to chop down trees. Okay, that's too many beds, but we do have our first villager for one of them, and that's going to be Bob. We're going to ask him to live in our village and automatically assign him into traveling with us because he's going to have a sword that helps us fight the enemies. And now that we have a lumber mill, we can create both plank and wooden rod, both of which are going to be very important when it comes to making weapons and upgrading our village. But not only that, they're also going to be used in order to create more stations. Now, my main priority is leveling up my village right now, and that's because the higher the level and the more stations that you put down, the better chests that you're going to find out in the wild. Right now, I'm going to find brown, regular wooden chest, but as I upgrade, I'll move up to green chest, to white chest, and finally to some of the best, which is going to give me iron bar and frost pine no matter where I'm at on the map. One of the coolest features that's out now is if you walk up to a lumber mill, there's a brand new button that says take output. That allows you to just take what's inside of the machine without actually having to open up the menu. And with our village square now becoming level 2, we're going to need knot root in order to level up our village again. We can't make a pickaxe just yet because we don't have any wolf claw, which means that we're going to need to farm some of this knot root and bring Bob with us and hope that he can take out a wolf by himself. And now that we've flattened our entire hill, it's time to venture out and try to farm some of the knot root and any other materials that we can. These small white trees are perfect to break because they're easy. Raspberries and pumpkins are awesome when it comes to finding ourselves or making potions. And right in front of us is another small hill that appears to have knot root and marble on it. It's Bob's time to shine. We encounter our first wolf, which means we're going to need Bob to take him out as we can't use any of our tools unless we have a superpower. So let's sit back, relax, and watch Bob take out this wolf. Well, that that didn't go too well. Unfortunately, we have to call this Wolf 1, Bob 0. And our plan to get enemy resources using our villagers is not off to a good start. The positive news is that our planks are done inside of the lumber mill, and so are our wooden rods. We can't make a pickaxe just yet, don't have the materials to make any charms, but we are able to make a few torches. That way we could place down campfires inside of caves for light, and we can make our first wooden sword, which we can't use, but we can give to Bob and hope that he can finally take down a wolf. Now, I can't protect this sheep, but you know who can? Bob! It is time for round 2! And just like that, we have our first set of Wolf Claw, but not only that, we have to update our counter. Bob is officially tied 1-1 with wolves. And thanks to Bob for going absolutely crazy on 2 wolves today, we were able to get enough wolf claw to create ourselves 1 wooden pickaxe. Or really, we could make more by just making more wooden rod, which I think is what we're going to do because we need to farm a lot of granite. Okay, this is pretty crazy. Bob is now farming the granite and marble with me, which is cool, but why didn't he do this when I didn't have a pickaxe? Here comes our first true test, and that's going to be against a shell crab. So let's see how Bob does here. And unfortunately, Bob took another L. I'm not sure if this is actually gonna work, but this shell crab is chasing me, and I'm gonna bring him all the way up my hill and bring him the triggerfish and Bob and hope that both of them could take him down. That's how it's done. Now, if only we could bring more than 1 villager with us. And with that stone breaker, we can now create granite slab, which is going to allow us to create even more things inside of our crafting bench. Not only can we create better forms of tools and weapons, but the green health charm can now be created along with some wool thread. And good thing for us, we were petting some of the sheep earlier in the game. The hero station has been placed, and now we have to select which power we're going to use. I think I'm going to start off with Rift Ripper. It's probably the most overpowered and easiest superhero power to use. This challenge is about to really ramp up in speed because we got our second villager here in Sparkplug. Now I can ask Sparkplug to live in our village and assign them to different jobs, which is going to make it even easier for me while playing. We have our sheep working on giving us a bunch of wool thread, which is going to help us when it comes to gliders and even more health charms. But more importantly, we do have a second villager in Sparkplug who's going to be able to help us out by working on another job. I'm not sure what the best one to start off with is, so I'm gonna do some refining wood and only focus on granite here. We do have our first set of superpowers, which is going to be this auto-aim Rift Ripper ability, and it's by far probably the best early game. So I'm going to be using this to take down more wolves. That gives me Wolf Claw, which means more pickaxes, which means more marble and granite. I will say I almost died here to a regular wolf, so I am absolutely going to need to get some health charms. I told you guys early on how important it was to gather random materials and pet all of the animals. That way we were able to unlock all of the ingredients for everything later in the game. And right away after putting down our potions cauldron, we have so many raspberries and so many pumpkins that we're able to make over 20 health potions. That's not all though, because we did have our villagers and our animals working on giving us some more material, which allows us to go in and make 3 uncommon health charms, which is the most that we're able to make right now, completely skipping over the regular common health charm, and now we have over 400 HP. And after a little while, we're able to take output from 2 of our workstations, go back into our crafting bench, and make a few things that we definitely are going to need. First thing is going to be the basic glider. This is going to allow us to move around the map a lot faster. Then we're able to make a bunch more torches, and that's to make even more campfires that we're going to need when we start exploring caves. One of the real MVPs of this video is going to be the recycler, and that's because any weapon or tool that we get that we can't use, we can put into the recycler to get all of the gems and items from it. We're also able to make a second version of what we have as far as the Rift Ripper superpower, and that's going to allow us to stay out a little bit longer on our adventure. We've spent a ton of time at our village, but I think it's time to start branching out. Now, we haven't explored any caves just yet, but we did bring a bunch of campfires to make sure that this is all lit up very nice for us. And fortunately enough for us, walking into this cave, we got a rewards cave, which means there's no enemies in here. There's only going to be chests that have some pretty good loot in them. However, there's not going to be any of the copper, any amber, or any materials that we're going to need. And the other problem is what I mentioned to you guys earlier. These chests are green, and while they give some decent materials, they don't give the best materials that we could get. So with that being said, we're not going to break anything in here until these turn into iron chests. This is the perfect cave for us. It has a ton of copper, and we're going to need a lot of that in order to upgrade our village. I'm not sure where Bob went, but after I fought a few skeletons, I was able to get 3 bright core from this cave. And it's not a dry valley cave, so why am I getting bright core? I don't know, but you're not gonna see me complaining. Now that we've upgraded our village square, we built a very small area to get ourselves organized. So I placed down a few chests. Now it's time to organize our inventory because we definitely have way too many materials and items inside of here that I definitely don't need to be carrying along with me every time I venture out. Next stop is clearing out these grassland caves because we need to get some amber in order to upgrade our village. We need copper bar, and I completely forgot that we could find that on fishing docks just randomly around the world. I think that's much faster than building a metal smelter. We couldn't have gotten any luckier in this cave. The first skeleton that we killed dropped us an iron pickaxe, which means that we could now start farming rough amber. After that, we were able to get ourselves 1 blast core from one of the shell crabs that was in here, which, what are they doing inside of Grassland's caves now? Finally, after all of that farming, we were able to place down a metal smelter, which then means we could make enough copper bars to upgrade our village again. Because we need 20 total copper bars, and I think that we have enough to put into our metal smelter to give that. We moved the bus station into our village to make things easier, and then used a brand new feature that was added, which is the rename station feature, which allows me to rename this as our Grasslands Village. After upgrading the village, we had another visitor. This time, it's the goldfish, who we can keep at our village now that we've upgraded our hub enough times. Now we have a full village. Things are finally coming together. We're more organized with our chest. We have a bunch of animals that are giving us different type of ingredients or materials. All of this is starting to come along. After making our first superpower equipment, it's time to do our first travel, and that's going to be to Klombo Island. We needed to go here because there's a ton of ways to farm essence, and in order to upgrade any of our superpowers, we're going to need a lot of essence. I found that earlier on in this game, it's not very easy to find or get essence, which means it's challenging to level up our superpowers. However, defeating these mobs and finding these chests will give you 75 essence each time. I brought a recycler, or at least the ingredients, along with me. That way I could place this down anytime I defeat a mob and open one of these chests, because that's going to give me a ton of materials that I could use later on. I went to fight one of these spawners that gives a ton of spiders, and what I found was that you only got 1 essence per kill, and you used a lot of durability on this, so I don't think this is worth it at all. We're going to need gems so that we can make better tools and weapons later on, but for right now, something that I'm noticing is that the chests that are spawning here are all white chests, which is right before the max level that I'm going to need in my village hub to get the iron and frost pine chest, which also just happens to give us the best loot possible. So we are going to definitely need to upgrade our village ASAP. Now, you saw I went against my rule of breaking chests before they turned into the iron bar and frostpine chest, and that's just because I'm probably never coming back to this island. I don't need to be here in order to defeat any of the challengers or the harder bosses, so I'm really just going to break and take advantage of all of the materials here that I can find. These chests are kind of stacked. I'm able to find metal or gem weapons. I found ruby, more shell, frost shell, all just from defeating a few enemies, and I'm getting 75 essence each time. Not only that, but I put some of these new tools into the recycler that I can't use, and I was able to get bear claw and iron bar, which are both going to be needed when it comes to using my superhero station and upgrading my village. We didn't destroy every single village on Klombo Island, but we were able to upgrade 2 of our spots on the Rift Ripper weapon, which is definitely going to help us take down enemies. While we were on the Lost Isles, we were farming some of the emerald that was there, which is important to note because this is going to allow us to possibly make regeneration charms. We're going to need to get a gem cutter to get ourselves cut emerald and feed one of our pigs in order to get slurp potions. This was probably the worst place to try to land because there's immediately going to be a spire brute next to the bus station, and we're gonna have to break that in order to move it later. Now we need to explore more of these caves to get more emerald. That way we can make ourselves these regeneration. Let's just get out of this cave. That was probably the most dangerous island on the Lost Isles, but we were able to get enough essence to max out our uncommon Rift Ripper weapon, which is pretty good, but we definitely need to get away from there because we don't want to be fighting any brutes right now. I think it's safe to say that the Rift Ripper weapon is by far the best. The attack speed on it is by far the fastest, and it does enough damage to take out all of these enemies without me even really getting touched. And now that we're back at our grasslands village, it's time to go to the rebel outpost. And if you guys have been watching my channel for a while, you know exactly why. On this beach, by this cave, will always be a spawner for brutes. And right now, we're going to need a brute scale in order to make a gem cutter. So let's try to take him out with hopefully some help from the Star Wars guys. Okay, those Star Wars players were really no help, and this weapon is very weak against brutes. 10 minutes later, we defeat our first brute, which means that we can finally place down a gem cutter. And I know that the comments would roast me if I didn't go inside of this Star Wars cave and get to farming, because there are so many materials in here that you can get, from feather to wool fabric to copper bars. So many materials just by farming in here. I needed to head over to the dry valley, and this giant horde of zombies started chasing after me. I think that this Rift Ripper weapon would be awesome if I was able to do the explosion, but right now they're able to get some hits on me. And all we got from that was like 20 total essence. That wasn't worth the fight at all. The first cave that we entered into the grasslands was one of the reward caves, which had no enemies and all chests. And now the first one that we go into in the dry valley is also a rewards cave that offers obsidian and other materials with chests, but doesn't give us any bright core or anything else that we're going to need. However, it does have ruby, and we're always going to need ruby. This was one of the best caves that I could have gone into. There was enemies that gave me more bright core. Right off the bat, there was bright core down in the front area, so I didn't really have to explore this all that much to get a ton of materials. Killing the brute and being able to place down the gem cutter is telling us that we can now max out our base once we get 15 cut amber. We're going to need 9 more by exploring a few more caves, but that shouldn't take too long. Right now, we're going to use the gem cutter to make ourselves a few of these regeneration charms, which means that we have to cut down some of that emerald. And because we had all of that bright core, we could officially place down an oven and give ourselves the best food item in the game, which is going to be a butter cake of the immortal. Now, not only do we need to make the butter cake, we also need to make slurp potions, which means that we need to make as many raspberries as possible. So we're going to create a very small farm here and plant a bunch of raspberry seeds. That way we could feed them to our pig and get all of the slurp potions. Now that our raspberry farm is up and running, that means that all we need to do is collect these right here at our village and then give them to our pig. That way they can give us some slurp potions in return. They did just give us 5 of them, which means that we're able to make at least 1 regeneration charm here. And finally, after tens of days, our lost long cousin Fishstick visits us, and you know we have to bring him in as a villager and also make sure he explores with us. Now that we've placed down the gem cutter, when we explore, we can find the iron bar and frost pine chest, which all of you guys know I wanted these from the very beginning of the game because it gives the best materials possible, including more rough amber. And because we have more iron bar now, we could start to upgrade the weapon that we use with the Rift Ripper. We're going to need more Arctic Claw in order to make the blue or rare version of this weapon. So let's go around collecting as much iron bar and wolf claw as we can. I think that's enough wolf claw. So now I could use my new favorite potion added into the game, the Clom Home Potion, which allows me to travel back to my village whenever I want, wherever I want. Now we have 2 regeneration charms, which gives us a ton of health, over 500 total, and it regenerates over time, meaning if I take any damage, it's going to give it right back to me. And now that I have the frost pine and iron bar chest, it's time to venture out to those reward caves that I had saved and try to get some of the best materials in the game. Now, this reason right here was why we waited so long to break down all of those chests in that cave. We're able to throw every single weapon, shield, or tool that we received from those chests into the recycler. We're then able to grab any of the food items that we got back from our animals. That way we could throw everything back into the gem cutter. Now we're going to max out our village, create the best potions, create the best foods, and give ourselves the final regeneration charm. Just like that, we have a full maxed out grasslands village, level 10. We have 5 villagers, 4 animals, and we have so much left to do as far as our challenges go. Checking in on our recycler, we have so many materials in there. So much cut amber. We even were able to get frost bear pelt from things that we got just from exploring caves that we started off the game with. And thanks to those chests, once again, we can now craft ourselves a ruby pickaxe, which allows us to pickaxe anything in all of Lego Fortnite, and an amber axe, which allows us to go ahead and hit any tree inside of Lego Fortnite. It's time to really focus on essence now, because we are going to need to upgrade our superpowers, whether it's just the Rift Ripper or all of the others. We need to start leveling them up so we could face brutes, face spires, and eventually fight the Storm King. So it's time to go back to the Lost Isles and collect as much essence as we can. We got a few hundred essence there. It's time to use our final Clom Home Potion to go back to our village and see what else we could do to farm essence, because this isn't going as fast as I wanted it to. We ran to our closest Spire location, put down a bus station, and even though we don't have the best of weaponry, we're going to give this a shot. The best way to get essence right now in Lego Fortnite Odyssey is to defeat the enemies by a spire, use the bus station, and then just keep loading back into this area. You get about 1,000 essence every single time that you do this, and that means we are really going to speed run, maxing out all of our superpowers. Just because I'm not using charms that allow me to revive myself doesn't mean that I can't use food items, and using the butter cake of Immortal allows me to go ahead and get 15 minutes of a charm that is going to allow me to respawn if I were to die. I was really nervous about doing this because I don't have my villager with me, nor do I have the best version of the Rift Ripper weapon and equipment. I knew that this was going to be a lot to deal with, but adding in the zombies coming over here is not helping whatsoever. The positive is I do have the best food item, being the Slurp Potion or the Slope Launcher, that is going to allow me to heal myself very quickly. Setting up this trick is the hardest part because you have to worry about the enemies, the masks, and then also add in doing damage to the spire. The only way that you can get the enemies to respawn very quickly to give you a lot of essence is to make sure that the spire's health is very low but not fully defeated. And while you're setting this up, they do continue to spawn enemies while the mask is actually getting sent at you and the spire's still trying to attack you. I'm trying to save my rare Rift Ripper weapon for the enemies that I'm fighting, and using the uncommon one is only doing 14 damage each attack. So this is taking a lot longer than I wanted to, but right here I get the final spawn of the Mask Maker enemies, which means as long as I can stay alive here and defeat them, I can keep hitting my bus station and spawning them over and over again and getting myself 1,000 essence every few minutes. Our trick is officially set up. I have the Spire very weak. I defeated every single wave of enemy, and now I'm going to use my bus station to go to the exact same bus station that I'm at. And when I load back in here and I go down to the Spire, what should happen is that the enemies should all respawn in one very very large wave, which should allow me to fight every single one of them a lot faster and get myself even more essence a lot quicker. Okay, it definitely worked because a bunch of these just respawned. I forgot how difficult this is going to be, but I have to do this in order to level up my superpowers. Fighting these enemies and trying to dodge the masks is incredibly difficult, but taking a look at the essence that I'm gaining, it is very well worth it. I have over 2,000 essence now and a bunch of materials, all just from defeating these enemies. And the good news is that I could just keep doing this over and over again. Because I have over 2,000 essence, I'm able to max out the second tier of Rift Ripper and only need a little over 3,000 to max out the next set. I upgraded 2 of the abilities so that I have better jumping and new movement, and I'm also grabbing every single iron warhammer because putting them into the recycler is going to give me a bunch of iron and other materials. After a lot of fighting, we're back at the home base to check out the mastery. We have over 2,600 essence, so that's giving us the ability to make 1 epic weapon and then 1 epic piece of equipment. Taking a look at the descriptions in these, every single one of them is two-handed and has different pros and cons to it. I'm going to purchase this 1,500 one that's going to give me better damage, and then taking a look at the equipment, the Flawless Fractal Force also gives us maximized damage. It costs us 3 total Frost Brute scales in order to make both the equipment and the weapon. So we're going to settle and just make one of the rare weapons right here, as we have to now go and face as many of these Frost Brutes as we can. But before we go and find Frost Brutes, we can still work on upgrading all of our superpowers. Remember, when you do this trick on a Spire, it stays at that low HP and will continue to spawn enemies very quickly. So this is going to allow me to farm this Spire over and over again and just continue to get thousands of essence every few minutes. I think you guys have watched enough of me fighting these Spires. I should probably farm a little bit off camera, but if this doesn't show you how good the Rift Ripper attack and abilities are, I don't know what will. The attack is so good because it auto-aims onto your enemy. You also have the invincibility when you use the secondary attack. Every part of this is truly so good, and fighting the Spires repeatedly is giving me hundreds of essence every few minutes. After farming a lot of essence off camera, we're able to work on upgrading the Shadow Caller. We had over 3,000 essence, which allows us to upgrade both the uncommon and the rare version of this class. We're also able to do that to the equipment slots as well. After returning home, there is a few things that we're going to need to do, and that's to create better versions of our hero weapons. While we're still upgrading Shadow Caller and the Hunter, we can really only work with the Rift Ripper. So we're going to need to go out there and find some Frostland Brutes and farm as many of them as possible. But don't forget, we were collecting a lot of these Iron Warhammers from fighting the Spires, and that means we're going to have a ton of materials given back to us just by farming those Spires. We teleported right back to Star Wars Island, and this time it's not to fight the Grasslands Brute. We're finally going to take on the Frostlands Brute, and that's because we need those scales in order to make the best version of our Rift Ripper weapon. Now, we do put a bus station down here because we know that this is a very easy and common respawner for them, which should allow us to farm a bunch of Brute scales. After we fought that first brute, we went to the Frostlands that was right behind where we were fighting the Spire, because right here, we also have a spawner for another brute. So this means that we can continue to farm brutes in both the Star Wars Island and just in this Frostlands area over and over again. That was some much needed farming in the Frostlands. We were able to get ourselves Frost Brute Scales, Frost's Claw, and we were able to find ourselves some Frost Shells. The only things that we're going to need now is going to be Storm Shells in order to make the Flawless Fractal Force. But finding these Storm Shells isn't easy because my entire world is surrounded by water, which means in order for me to even get to a storm area, I had to put down a bus station at the end of my world, use it, that way I could then float over the water, because I didn't build any planes or any form of transportation outside of these bus stations. I got myself the storm shell needed to make that final equipment for the Rift Ripper, but now what I have to do is rename my bus stations, get myself a little bit more organized here so that I'm able to farm more efficiently. I wasn't able to make the epic version of the Rift Ripper because I needed brute scales, but testing out the version of this when it comes to the Shadow Caller is cool, but I don't think that it's better than the Rift Ripper. Clearing that cave was much needed. We got 49 total rough sapphire, which will make 49 cut sapphire. And taking a look at our hero station, we are going to need that to make the brand new equipment that we have, and in order to make the best version of the Rift Ripper weapon. As far as making stuff in the other portions of the hero station, it looks like anything to do with the Shadow Caller is going to be the Dry Valley, and everything to do with the Hunter is going to be in the Grasslands. We still need to max out all 3 classes and start to use them. So right here, we went ahead and added a bunch of versions of the Hunter class and upgraded them as far as we could. Now that was a Dry Valley Brute, which means that we've 100% completed defeating all 3 Brute types. Even though we're looking for more Frost Brutes, we did find a Spire Brute, and we need to defeat one of these in order to defeat today's video. So let's go ahead and try to take him out. They're different, they're cool, but definitely no challenge for the new superpowers. After getting the new epic version of the Rift Ripper weapon, we've been able to take out multiple challenges, starting with the Brutes over to the new Spire Brute. Knowing this, I think it's time to stack up on the best weapons possible, make sure that I have more than one of them, that way I can really go through and start destroying every single major challenge. And now that we have multiple versions of the epic Rift Ripper weapon, we can officially go and farm the rest of this Spire and max out all 3 superpowers. This method is absolutely insane. When I pull up my mastery here, I have 4,400 essence, which allows me to upgrade and max out my Rift Ripper to 100%. And that's probably why the Rift Ripper is so overpowered, because using the secondary attack makes you invincible, which means that any time that the masks hit you, they do 0 damage. I went back to my grasslands village and I got myself a recycler because I have so many of these hammers all over the place that I need to continue to pick up and turn into iron and copper bars. Yeah, there's not one single person that can comment that the Rift Ripper abilities are not the absolute best in LEGO Fortnite. I hope that this is impressive to you guys as it is to me. I have over 80 copper bar and over 60 iron bar before those last few that I put in there start to get recycled. Now, it's not just that. I've been grinding so much that when you take a look at my mastery, I have almost 4,000 essence. I can now officially master out the Shadow Caller abilities and then get to work on the Hunter class. This is a little bit more expensive because it does have 4 weapons over 1,000 essence. Right here, we complete 2 challenges at once. One of them was getting enough essence to max out the Hunter class. The second one was finally defeating a Spire. We farmed it for a very long time, but after a while and we finally reaching that essence goal, we now officially defeated a Spire. Now, the only thing left to do here is to grab everything from our recycler, or deposit the hammers that we have now, and then grab the items from there. Just from maxing out everything from the superpowers, I was able to collect myself over 30 corrupted crystals. I could break that chest, and then taking a look inside of the recycler now, while I don't need all of these arrows or some of these storm fruit, I could break this and get over 200 iron bar and over 300 copper bar. This is the first time I've ever opened the hero station with it having every possible weapon and equipment in it. I mentioned it earlier, but it does look as though the Hunter is going to be mainly grasslands materials, the Shadow Caller is going to mainly be from the Dry Valley, and then the Rift Ripper is obviously from the Frostland. So I definitely started this video off the hardest way possible. I mentioned earlier that I need to use every type of superpower or equipment, and right now I'm eating a cornbread to give myself max stamina, because when it comes to using the Hunter's class and that equipment that you have, you're able to dive directly into enemies and immediately set off the traps. It almost comes off as though it stuns the enemy. Now, I do take damage here, but I did get the brute to about half HP. I have so much extra stamina that diving around him is doing enough damage to defeat him without me using any type of weapon. You could see him destroying every single one of these traps, and again, even though I took damage, I defeated him without even using a single weapon. Now, I still have the buff effect from using that cornbread, and I have a bear right in front of me, so I'm going to test out this yet again against him, but it also looks like I have a zombie horde chasing after me, and every single one of them also got defeated by these traps. Right now, I'm stacking up so that I can defeat the Storm King, which means I do need to take out a few more of these frost brutes, but I did also find probably the most overpowered way to use these superpowers and equipment. So if I have my superpower using the Rift Ripper, I could use that attack while then using the equipment that comes with the Hunter. Comboing those will absolutely shred any brute in sight. And now that we have enough brute scales, we can go back into our weapons and start creating more of the epic tiered weapons for any type of hero class. And I say that because as we prepare to fight the Storm King, we're going to need to be prepared as far as our weapons and our heals go. We need to be organized because now it's time to start getting prepared to build up the Storm Village. We're getting so close to being able to fight the Storm King, but first we have to finish leveling up our Storm Village. And one of the things that we're going to have to do is enter into one of these Storm Dungeons. Now we need to go in here for a few different reasons. Number one, we need to go in order to unlock and finish the rest of the quest for that Storm Village. The second thing is we're definitely going to need Eye of the Storm in order to fight the Storm King. We are so close to being able to fight the Storm King. This next upgrade requirement is very easy. Using 3 Storm Geysers, defeating 5 Storm Rollers, and then investigating where the Storm King is at. The problem? My entire world is a bunch of islands, and the Storm King lair is very far away. Time to test this flying thing out, and right now it looks to do the job. I have over 2,700 meters to fly to because there's no way that I was walking this or driving this. And thankfully, when we got to the Storm King area, we were able to find a bus station, which means to me that we don't need to fly anymore. I could break this, get all of my materials back, and then just set up the bus station here so I could just return that way. We investigated the gateway and placed down a bus station here, so when it's time to face the Storm King, we could just teleport quickly. And after all of this preparation, it is finally time to power up the Tempest Gateway and defeat the Storm King. Now, we did have to return back to our village, and that's because when we go into the hero station, we needed to make sure that we have enough weapons prepared with enough durability to outlast the Storm King. Not only that, but I wanted to make sure I have at least one of each weapon type from each hero. That way I'm using every single hero class. So to start off, we are going to give ourselves one of the weapons that come from the Shadow Caller. The descriptions are a little bit confusing, but we do need at least one of these before we go and fight. So we're going to select the Dark Fist. When it comes to choosing the weapon that goes with the Hunter, I had to make sure to read the descriptions very well. And that's because one of them will do increased damage when it comes to range style of weapons, which is perfect for both the Shadow Caller and the Rift Ripper's weaponry. Or damage when we use any of the other hero powers. So what I'm going to do is make sure that whatever one we're going to select allows ranged weapons to do damage. Just remember, in order to complete this challenge, we are only able to use the superhero weapons. No crossbows, no plasma pistols, no melee weapons whatsoever. We need to only be using the 3 weapons that come with all of the superheroes, and we're going to try to take out the most difficult enemy in LEGO Fortnite Odyssey using only superpowers. Okay, now that's really cool. You can combo the secondary ability that comes with the weapon once it's fully charged. So I use the secondary ability on the Hunter's class, swap to my Rift Ripper, and then use the super ability that stacks on that. But this is where things get very challenging, and that's that the Storm King is going to attack us at the same exact time that he's going to put these enemies out there. The positive to it is that I do have the equipment that comes with the Rift Ripper, which means that when I use my dash or my jump, I get a double jump and I go invisible to dash further than I normally would, which means that all of his attacks that he does are going to be very difficult for him to land on me. Guys, I'm trying to use every type of hero weapon, but it is so difficult. They do such little damage to them. Even the weak points take very little damage from this. This is going to take a very long time. Okay, well, stage 1 is done. We got one horn down, and we have another one to go. We're doing very little to no damage, and this is taking a lot longer than expected. I think this is the trick. Get them stuck in the ground and then start hitting them with any of these weapons. But the problem is they're only doing 140 damage every few seconds, and the Storm King is way too strong to do that. I've never been this high before with the Shadow Caller weapons, but I don't like how much stamina they take. I'm on it! Oh my gosh, I was saved by Buttercake. I need to heal so quickly. Oh my gosh, I really don't like the Shadow Caller weapon in this at all. Just like that, we're on the final stage of the Storm King fight. All that we need to do is defeat this final horn here, and then we'll go on to the end fight, which is probably the hardest part of this entire thing. It's either that or trying to defeat him doing this little damage. I don't know if you could tell what I was doing there, but I used the Hunter's class in order to make the Storm King targeted, and then I switched over to the Rift Ripper class and started to do more damage with it. So normally I would do 32 damage, but after I hit him with the Hunter class, it goes up to 40 damage each time a crystal hits him. We defeated the Storm King using only weapons that were coming from the superhero update. That was so difficult. And I think that obviously without any type of revival, there was no way that I was surviving that fight. Now there is only one last challenge, and that is to defeat Daigo. We defeated a Spire, we only used superhero weapons, we defeated every single brute type, and we defeated the Storm King. The final challenge is going to be defeating the final enemy that was added into Lego Fortnite Odyssey, being Daigo. And you could typically find him running across these paths, but right now I don't see him. Here he is right at the top of my map, 50 meters away. It is time to finally finish this challenge. Okay, Daigo, let's chill out a little bit. I don't want to take that much damage. That attack was absolutely insane. I'm pretty happy I still have the Rift Ripper equipment set up. When he gets stunned like that is the perfect time to use the Hunter's class on him, because you could put the target and then do better damage with any of the other classes. I don't know why he gets stunned like that, but it makes it so much easier to fight him. Let's go, dude! We finished the challenge! Officially defeated Daigo, only using superpowers. That was another incredibly difficult fight. He moved so much, his attacks hit for so much more. That was an incredibly difficult challenge. Guys, I love to do surviving 100-day videos, but this may have been the most difficult so far. I did it for Star Wars, I did it when Expert Mode came out, but using only the superhero weapons was a whole new challenge. With all of the changes done to food, potions, and obviously these brand new weapons and equipment, this made the game so much more fun for me, but so much more difficult. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure that you guys like it, comment down below your favorite part, and as always, guys, this was Crafty, and I'm out. Peace. Help me reach 50,000 subscribers by pressing that sub button in the top right. And if you guys haven't already, check out that video in the top left. YouTube thinks that you'll like it a lot. Peace.